All right. Hello, everyone. My name is John Arntz, and welcome to the Business Freedom Formula. Today's guest is Eric Mangold, and he is a financial planner, and he's going to tell us about his business and what he can do for you today. Yeah, how you
Hey,
doing?
John. Doing pretty well, John. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. So let's go
So,
with tell
um,
us a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
so I am the founder of Argosy Wealth Management. Argosy is a ship that carries precious cargo, and I've been in practice as a financial planner for about 13 years, but the last two and a half, I've had my own practice in a partnership with a firm called Summit Financial. We've been around for over 40 years. Um, but my main focus is trying to help people get from point A to their financial summit. And that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. That could mean paying for college for their kids. That could mean retiring with comfort and clarity. That could mean funding a charity. That could mean sometimes taking care of parents while you're taking care of your own self and your own kids. It can mean a lot of different things, but it is getting to that financial summit so that you can really take that deep breath and breathe easier about your finances and where you are and where you need to be.
Okay. Yeah, so basically it's tailored to an individual's circumstances and their individual goals.
Definitely. And as goals change over time, what we always try to do is implement a financial strategy that is like pretty harmonious. Harmonious means there's going to be a lot of different areas that we look at. We look at People think financial planning, they think about investments, right? And
Right.
of course, investments is part of what we do, but
Mhm.
that's one piece of the puzzle. And there's probably another dozen pieces to that puzzle that are all important, whether it could be the tax plan, which is different than tax prep. CPAs are a vital resource, but
Mhm.
CPAs do tax preparation, looking backwards. How do we save taxes from last year versus going forwards, which is tax planning, which is what we do.
Okay.
And we're looking to save clients, over the course of our relationship, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in taxes that they don't have to pay.
Mhm.
Um, the estate plan is part of it. And there are a lot of articles that we read about people like James Gandolfini or Prince or Jimi Hendrix or Bob Marley, and these folks who didn't have their estate plans put together in the right way. James Gandolfini, I think the tax bill to his beneficiaries was something like $20 million because he
Jeez.
didn't have his estate plan
Wow.
done right. And I hear from a lot of people like, well, I don't have James Gandolfini money. Well, even more important then, because you don't want your beneficiaries to pay any more dollars in taxes than they
Mhm.
should pay. So it's a really harmonious strategy. It's putting together all these different pieces of what people need, what people want, and how do we get them there to make sure that one, we're growing wealth, but two, we're also protecting wealth too. And that's a big part of it as well. Is how do we protect? And the estate plan is part of that. um, the Putting together things like their wills is part of that. Things like their disability insurance, long-term care insurance, life insurance, that's all part of that. Making sure their homeowners insurance. I don't do homeowners insurance, but I always review it just to make sure that it's enough,
Mhm.
because it's one of those things that nobody really cares who the carrier is. They just make sure it's the right and
Sure.
right amount if something happens.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. It's interesting. My not quite 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in October. My mother passed away,
Oh,
and
sorry to
she
hear that.
fortunately had a um she'd had a living trust written. And the attorney that wrote that, when my brother and I sat down with her, found out that um, the home that she had owned outright belongs to both of us. Well, I, I'm not sure, those of people who are not in California don't understand that in California, if the house, once you buy the house, your property taxes are limited in how much they can go up a year. It has nothing to do with the valuation, it has to do with some other things. So by taking that home through that trust and giving it to my brother and I, it didn't get reevaluated as it would in a sale. Okay.
Good for your mom.
and that house went up substantially. My brother and I would have as the property taxes on that thing would have been probably more than I could afford. And so that's the kind of planning I think is part of what you're talking about, right?
Right.
I
I mean,
know it
spot
varies from
on.
state to state, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm in New Jersey, and that is not one of the estate planning rules in New Jersey. But I mean, that's something that a specific attorney in California recognized.
hmm
And kudos to your mom for pulling the trigger on that, because she wanted to give this. Obviously, she wanted to give the house to you and your brother, but
hmm
she didn't want to do it when make it burdensome for you.
right.
So she did it in a way. And this is a great example, like the James Gandolfinis, the Prince music catalog, the Jimi Hendrix catalogs. Those catalogs are still being fought over by their families. But your mom did a great move by
Yeah.
putting together that estate plan, saving you guys some money.
Oh yeah, a
Yeah,
lot. And so, it was just a minor cost to transfer the deed
mhm.
from her name to my brother and I. And of course, California is a community property state. So actually my half of the house also belongs to my wife.
Okay.
So, she has some value in that. Should I pass, she actually owns the half with my brother. So she is still, and my brother and I love each other. So no one, we don't have to worry about family squabbles, which I know are another part of
Oh,
probably
yeah.
some of the planning you do, because some of that I've known families and it can get ugly and it's sad.
It's really sad. I had a client call me about a year and a half ago, and it was about his father, and his father was a beneficiary to his sister, and his sister had there was four total family members: the sister and two sisters and two brothers. One of the sisters was very wealthy. She's the one who passed away, and she gave her inheritance to her siblings. She didn't have any other family except for her siblings. And she named one of the brothers as executor of the estate. Well, when he received that title, he all of a sudden decided that he was going to make decisions about who got what with the inheritance.
Mhm.
Well, that's not his role.
Right.
The will is the directive.
hmm
But he was saying, "No, I'm the executor, and you're going to listen to me," and kind of pounding the table of, "Well, this is what I'm going to give to everybody." And my client called and said, "Can you help my dad?" And so and this is one of the things that I think when people talk about comprehensive financial planning, I think this is what it means to me is that, can I help his dad? The answer is going to be yes. Now, there were things that I did for my client's dad, like finding him an estate litigation attorney, which unfortunately was where things headed, because the two brothers stopped talking to each other. They stopped going to each other's houses, and they were just battling and battling and battling. He basically
Yeah.
saying, why is my brother telling me? He has no right to tell me what I'm going to do with my own inheritance. And the estate litigation attorney that I was able to find from. Now, this didn't put a dime into my pocket, and I don't care, because this
Yeah.
is something I knew I was going to help my client's father. And the estate litigation attorney was able to actually get everybody to come to the table and settle everything, to the point where it did take about a year and a half, but the brothers started talking again.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like, maybe it's a little bit on outside the realm of some of my
Sure.
core responsibilities to my clients.
hmm
But the way I view it is, this guy needed my help.
Yeah.
And he was the father of one of my clients, and he needed help because he didn't want to fight with his brother.
Sure.
But you're absolutely right, John. And I've seen it a number of times where the estate plan is maybe incomplete, and that's when you get the friction. And no, nobody wants to see the family members fight.
No.
So,
No. And I
so
and I
yeah,
think it's sad when they do, but I know
yeah,
it's part of what goes on in life. So,
yeah.
again, that might be, pardon me, another aspect of that we don't think about when we talk about financial planning, is because there's always the end of life things that we have to consider.
Hmm.
And we like to think everybody loves each other and everybody's going to take care of each other. And fortunately, that person never finds out what really happened. But it is sad.
It is sad. As the estate litigation attorney told me, she said, unfortunately, money can muddy the waters, and if it wasn't for these type of family squabbles, she goes, I wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
goes, it happens more so than you think. And
Yeah.
it is a shame.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
sad reason to be in
and
business and hang up a shingle, isn't it?
it's a
Yeah.
sad reason to be. Yeah, it really is. It really is. You're gonna make a living off of people trying to break up fights, and that's and
So,
the
so,
reality of it.
so Eric, do you just work one-on-one with people? Do you guys have, kinds of like seminars you do online, or you do, public
Yes.
things?
So we do. So I do a lot of speaking. I probably do one type of seminar a month. Well, one, I work with a lot of business owners, and we implement retirement plans for those business owners, whether it's a 401k plan, profit sharing plan, whatever it may be. But when I'm talking with the business owner about what plan may be appropriate for them, and if when we decide on one, we also talk about the education for the employees. And it's okay, you now have this 401k. Why do you care? Why should you care?
Right.
So I do a lot of the education meetings for the employees, but then I also work with a lot of physicians,
Mhm.
and physicians are notoriously uncomfortable with money. And so I do a lot of things where it's like, okay, let's do some 101 type of classes.
Mhm.
What is investing 101? What does the 401k mean? What's a basic estate plan look like? And I do these seminars in sometimes virtual, and it's great to be back in person doing them again.
Right.
Um, but it's education first. It's education first. I never go in it with saying, I'm going to be in front of 30 people. I want to come out with 30 clients. That's
Yeah.
not what it's
Yeah.
about. It's about education and giving some people some help. The clients will come. They will come. People will have the needs, and that's great. But
Mhm.
that's not the lead foot. The lead foot is we're going to deliver a message, deliver some education, so people can get a little more comfortable with it.
Sure.
Now with Google and especially AI, I mean, there's so much information out there, and navigating through all that noise, especially for finance, can be really, really challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned this. I mean, I've got an MBA and I don't understand it. You know, I mean, I've had a lot of finance classes, but that's always talking about the firm. It's always talking about business financing and long-term projections and return on investments and stuff like that. It's never about planning your own life. And,
Yeah.
it's almost a shame we don't teach this in school when you're like a graduating senior. I think there should be an entire semester in your senior year of this is what it takes to be an adult. You know?
Yep. 100%.
You know?
John, so I when I talk to physicians, I mean, I listen to them, and I kind of talk, listen to how they talk, and try to talk the talk and walk their walk. But
Mhm.
they always say, we're not taught finance in college. We're not taught finance in med school, our fellowships, residency, no matter what. And then we go into practice. And with the way that the healthcare system is now, and I'm sure that's a whole different conversation,
Mhm.
but their responsibility are seeing as many patients as they can and patient outcomes. And they don't have time for their
Right.
own finances. And you're absolutely right. They're never taught this. And the average investor, the average person, isn't taught this kind of financial wellness either. I think there is a little bit of a groundswell of a movement of trying to educate people more, because it also goes back to, for like my dad who worked at AT&T. Well, it was Bell Telephone, then
Right.
AT&T,
Yeah.
then
Right.
Lucent, right? He was there for 35 years. The design then for those workers where you'd work someplace for 35, 40 years, you'd retire on your pension, you retire on Social Security, and maybe you had a little nest egg too, right? And that
Mhm.
was what you retired on. You'd be dead by 70, and that was it. But
Mhm.
now people are living longer. Companies aren't giving pensions. People aren't staying at the same companies for longer. The responsibility for someone's own retirement is unfortunately squarely on their shoulders.
Right.
So it's a lot more responsibility. So I'm hoping that groundswell of financial wellness education is building, because I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think when you have the advent of some of these apps, especially things like if you look at Acorns, which was just rounding up pennies,
Hmm.
and people see what that rounding up pennies does. Robinhood that allows people to look at things and make decisions. I think people are learning more once they do it, and it's in their face. You don't have to look through the newspaper anymore to find out what the through all those little symbols, trying to find your guy and figure
Mhm.
out what do those three columns mean,
Yeah.
it's
It's
more
definitely a lot
interactive and
easier.
it gives you a lot more information. And I think that's probably fueling some of it. That, and I think
Definitely.
also the fact that as people understand there are no more pensions anymore, and they hear about older people who've lost the pensions because the companies went bankrupt and they were counting on that, and now they're trying to get by on $1,900 a month on their Social Security. Younger people are looking at this and going, wow, they at least have a house that they own, and I can't even buy that right now. So I got to think
Yeah.
longer term. And yeah,
Yeah, and I think
there is
that's
a
a big
drive
part
with
of
it.
it too,
But I also
especially
think
with
there's a whole lower level of people without a lot of money who the whole idea of financial planning is just probably not only scares them, but I don't have any money for that. But
well,
you
John,
know,
I get asked this a lot, and it's a question that I don't fault people for asking. I actually fault my industry for creating this kind of environment. But I get asked a lot of, Eric, what's your minimum? And that what that question basically means is, what is my minimum dollar amount that somebody needs to invest with me before I give them any kind of one-on-one personal
mhm,
advice? And I don't like that question. I don't like that philosophy because
mhm,
for a number of reasons. One is it turns everybody into a dollar sign.
right,
And John, I'm not working with dollar signs. I'm working with human beings here.
right, exactly,
And we got to try to help people, and I'm not converting somebody to a dollar sign. Again, and I mentioned a moment ago, I work with a lot of physicians, and I worked with a lot of physicians when they were residents, and they didn't have a whole lot of money,
right,
but I was able to keep them out of some pitfalls that they otherwise would have probably fallen in, financial pitfalls. And now 3 and 4 and 5 and 10 years later, they're fantastic clients with a ton of things that we can do for them from a planning perspective. So, for those people that don't have a lot of money,
mhm,
there are people out there that are willing and able to help, and not requiring you to make some massive upfront financial commitment
mhm,
that you may be really uncomfortable making.
sure,
So that those people are out there. There's some good guys out there.
yeah. Well, Eric, this has been really interesting and insightful. I'm really glad that we connected and that you agreed to join us for this podcast today. So, thank you very
Thank you, John.
much.
Thank you.
Alrighty,
I love being here.
alrighty, and we'll connect again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, John.